All right. Well, it's April 14th, 2025.
I think it's
What?
going off of some of our...
What's going off of?
You've got...
Oh, no. Is it like putting in all of our stuff?
I think it is.
So
I'm not...
Well, okay. I guess everybody gets a little bit of everything, so...
I'm not entirely sure. Going live is still tough for us.
Yeah. It's probably going to take us like 10 times before we're actually good at this.
Especially since we're trying to pre-plan, so...
All right. So we'll do the word of the day again after we talk about some other fun stuff, like what happened today in history.
Yeah, that way somebody, if they come on, they can tell us if we've done the word of the day or
They're
not
like, hey,
already.
we saw that, right? So... Right.
So we went to Florida for the Ligonier National Conference this last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to talk about, particularly Orlando, Florida, on this live stream. We thought it'd be kind of fun to just kind of highlight some things about the place and what it's known for. Obviously, it's known for like Disneyland, Disney World, Universal Studios, and things like that. But it's got a lot of other theme parks as well. So we'll talk about the estimation of how many theme parks there are and things like that, and just some other fun facts.
Simultaneously, you can watch Christian Inc. page 12 of our upcoming comic.
Yes.
So, fun facts about Orlando, Florida. So, fact number 1. No one knows where the name Orlando comes from.
Oh, really?
There's
So it's not like flat out like Cuban or,
there's
Hispanic or...
I believe it is Spanish in origin, but they don't know why it's named Orlando. It had a different name after the guy who was the first settler, and I did not write that part down. Orlando means famous place.
Oh, really?
But
okay.
There's like 2 or 3 theories about where the name itself came from, but no one actually knows why the name stuck for that particular part of Orange County, Florida. So...
That's funny.
The first amusement park in Orlando was Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom, but that wasn't the first amusement park in Florida. The first amusement park in Florida was actually Cypress Gardens in Winter Haven.
Which is the same area where Legoland is, actually.
As of now,
Yeah.
yes.
So
There's pieces of Cypress Gardens.
Yeah, there's actually pieces of Cypress Gardens. We only know this because we went to Legoland 3-ish plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of fun. I liked Legoland.
So it feels smaller than Legoland California, though.
It does, but I think they're still building on it.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
Yeah, it is. It is smaller, I would say.
I was really happy because I saw that in 2018. So Cypress Gardens had a pool that was shaped like the state of Florida. And it appears that they kept that pool and they open it seasonally at Legoland. So I was excited to see that. All right, so the tallest ride in Orlando, Florida is not in Disney World. It's not in Universal. It's actually in, I think it's along International Drive, Florida. Yes. It's called the Starflyer. It's a swing ride that spins riders up its 450-foot tall structure. Now, you don't go the full 450 feet up, but you get pretty close.
Yeah. It has kind of some great decals on the top. Not decals. I guess decals is usually like stickers. But it has some great decorations on the top that kind of give it a... What did you call it? Almost like a Louisiana feel?
It reminded me of New Orleans a little bit, or at least the bits and pieces from like the Mardi Gras parties and stuff. Not the less savory parts, but the more decorative parts. And color-wise, it kind of reminds you of that too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's actually kind of a cool ride to look at.
Mm-hmm.
It actually glows at night too, or lights up at night, I should say. Not
true.
Glows, it doesn't glow.
It's open until like 2 a.m. So you can go up at night and probably see the lights of Orlando up there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's interesting that they made a swing ride that tall, though. It's not a Supreme Scream. It's not a roller coaster. It's a swing ride that you literally can spin up and spin down. All right. So, Orlando is home to over 18 different theme parks, from Disney World to Universal Studios. This can include Epcot Center, and it can also include Fun Spot America. Fun Spot actually has 2 locations. One's in Georgia, one's in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
We see the Florida one all the time
we do,
when we go to Florida.
I feel like it's
Orlando.
kind of a shame I haven't gone. I think it's pretty... Fun Spot's funny because I think all of its rides and stuff is like U.S.
themed.
Yeah, but in a particular way. It's almost like themed after the golden era of the U.S. So 1950s and onward, right?
So I feel like if that's the case, well, I guess hot dogs came out way before that, but I feel like they should have hot dogs and hamburgers.
You totally would still have hot dogs.
French fries.
You're reminding me that when we went to Legoland, they had deep fried apples that they had? That
I think it was apple fries. I thought they called it apple fries, didn't they?
And it's funny.
They were deep fried apples. They had like a cinnamon sugar coating on them. They were delicious.
And I've heard Disney World is kind of known for coming up with stuff like that too. So anyway, there's a lot of...
Well, I know Universal came up with stuff for Harry Potter. Like that was its big...
Yeah, it was. No, it is.
Because they did like butterbeer, but it couldn't have dairy in it. And it couldn't be alcoholic.
Yeah.
Even though... But I think butterbeer in the book, isn't that kind of supposed to be more like a root beer kind of a thing?
It's a butterscotch beer.
Yeah. Oh, it's a butterscotch beer?
It's a butterscotch...
Or like a butterscotch root beer kind of thing.
It's like butterscotch ginger ale.
I gotcha.
It doesn't have the ginger in it, but the idea is that instead of having a root beer, like you said, or a ginger beer, you would have a butter beer.
Gotcha.
Honestly, that does sound good.
Yes. Well, and I don't see why it would... Well, I guess it depends on if butterscotch nowadays typically has butter in it. Because if it typically has butter in it, then I can see where...
There are so many ways like foods emulate each other. I remember hearing about a Great Depression recipe that to emulate the flavor of beef, they soaked oats in coffee grounds. And you're like, that's... Nothing about that is beefy. Why would that emulate itself? Or why would it emulate beef? But it does, right?
Funny.
So, all right. So 18 different theme parks. I probably should preface the 18 different theme parks with that might include theme parks that aren't technically in Orlando.
That's true, because you said, Legoland was on the list?
Yeah, Legoland came up, but it's not in Orlando.
It's in Winter Haven.
Yeah, and I believe there's a couple other parks in Florida.
Which that's funny, because that always just makes me think of the thing from the Lego Batman movie where it's like, Bloodhaven! Every time I hear Winter Haven, so I just want to be like, Winter Haven!
Well, and then I got curious how many events happened in Orlando, because while we were there was an aviation conference, there was a leadership conference,
yes,
and there was a third conference. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. 2 of those were in the same building we were in.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. The leadership conference was... No, there was a different leadership conference that was in the
Orange
same
County.
building. Yeah. There was a leadership conference over in Orange County.
Okay.
And then there was a leadership conference over in the hotel we were having our conference at.
Just to clarify, when we say Orange County, we're talking the convention center in Orange County.
Yes.
Because Florida is in Orange County, but there's the Orange County Convention Center.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it sounds like Orlando hosts over 200 events each year, bringing in 1.5 million visitors.
Wow, 1.5. But annually.
Yes.
That's not just like at one time.
There are possibly like about 300,000 more visitors who come in annually than there are alligators in the state of Florida. So I don't know if that's a comfort.
Wait, you said there's 300,000 more visitors than alligators?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the alligators stay.
Well, and the visitors, I think, leave.
Yes. Not necessarily because
most
of the alligators.
Well, and we did figure out that you're more likely to get attacked by a shark, right, than an alligator?
Yes.
I don't remember exactly the statistics of what it was, but yes, you are more likely to get attacked by a shark than an alligator.
Well, and I couldn't actually find the number of alligators in Orlando itself.
Oh, really? Well, we know they have like the little baby alligators at some of the mini golf courses.
Yes.
And stuff like that, which that's always funny to me.
Yeah. Mini golf courses are a lot of fun.
Oh, they have a lot of fun ones. They have like a Pirates Cove. They have Congo River.
Yeah.
I think a couple of those.
There's 15 of them in Orlando. I looked this up.
That's crazy.
And it's everything from pirates to jungle exploration to what is that word? Not agriculture. It's the thing Indiana Jones does.
Oh, archaeology.
To archaeological themes to blacklight.
Blacklight. Ooh, so
yeah.
See, the other thing that they have that I would kind of like to try is they have escape rooms in Orlando.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Because I've seen like the different, I don't know what you call them, like the different business headings, titles for escape rooms, and I'm like, escape rooms can be fun.
I think I saw one of the rooms had an ad on a bus stop on the way out. It looked like it was either space themed or submarine themed.
Ooh, both of those sound awesome.
I know, right? But I didn't figure out how many escape rooms were in Orlando, so you can't come to me for that.
I'm sorry. We know there's a lot of mini golf courses.
We know there's there. We also know that there's like about half a dozen candy stores in Orlando.
Yeah, and they got a Dave & Buster's.
And they got a... Oh, I forgot about Dave & Buster's. There's the ones that has the Rock'em Sock'em
the Rock'em Sock'em
on
robots.
mega size, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The big boys. Yep.
Those would be fun to do.
Those would be.
All right, so let's talk about doe skin. That was our word for the day.
Yeah.
In case someone missed it.
Yeah.
So doe skin, which we have a game we play with the dictionary, and how it works is we take the date for 14, so we're looking up
the 414th page.
414th page, if one can count. Yep, here we go. And then because it's the year 2025, we hit
the 25th
entry doe skin. We did look it up earlier, but we didn't know if anyone was part of that, so here we are.
Yeah, we weren't sure if we were live.
Yeah.
Being live has been the...
So, doe skin, it means the skin of a doe, deer, or goat. And then it means leather made from this and used especially for gloves. And 2, a fine, soft, smooth woolen fabric. So, it is both a leather that's from a doe or from deer, but it's also a type of weave that's really soft.
So, are female goats called does?
Oh, you're saying because it's
put in
goat,
there.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it just got the name doeskin because it started with deers or with deer.
With the deer.
And so it was like, that was why they started it. But I was just wondering because sometimes animals have similar group names. So I don't know.
I don't think they call...
Because, like, elk is a bull elk, and then the female is a cow elk.
Right, and they do it with elephants, too, where it's a bull elephant and a cow elephant.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that with goats. And the only reason I don't think so is because when you hear someone refer to a male goat, a full-grown male goat, he's a billy goat.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't think
What is the female goat called, then? You never hear that.
You hear about the kid...
Yes.
But I don't know about the female. Maybe the female is a doe. Alright, so doe skin. And then also a densely napped finish for certain woolen fabrics, such as flannel.
Oh, really?
I feel like there are fabric things here.
I didn't catch the flannel before.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, basically,
doe skin. That would make sense why original flannel could be so soft and yet so...
thick and sturdy.
Warm, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. You get doe skin flannel.
Yeah. Question is was there originally a different kind of flannel?
I believe there was. I mean, I remember people talking about... Now, hold on. Maybe I'm getting this wrong. I believe I heard people talk about some forms of flannel being coarse and itchy. But that would be like wool.
Yeah.
Right?
I was thinking like wool. Now, wool is interesting because you have tweed in wool.
Yes, you do.
Which is like the original camouflage of the Highlands.
Mm-hmm. And then there was tweed, and then didn't it graduate to houndstooth being the camouflage?
They might have been two different kinds.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I know tweed was at one point camouflage. I don't know. I'm assuming houndstooth, you're right, probably was. The design of it looks like you could hide pretty well in bushes and things like that, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. That was mainly for recreational hunting. That wasn't really for the warfare like modern camo does. But then again, we have a difference between war camo and hunting camo anyway.
That is true. That is true. War camo, I don't know. It's funny because it doesn't feel like with war camo they actually use it for the same things anymore.
That's probably true.
Because like during World War II, when they had clothes that were supposed to be more camouflage, which was like the typical uniform, it was solid green and it was meant to just hide in with the environment. And that's what camo is supposed to do. But I don't know that they really use it. I mean, our warfare now is not as much boots on the ground.
True.
It's a lot of like airstrike and flyby and different things like that. I'm sure there is still boots on the ground stuff.
There is still boots on the ground because there's combat stories and stuff from.
But I don't know.
Like that.
But I don't know like camouflage. What do they wear for that?
I believe you typically see it. Well, it has kind of a digitized pattern. I think they make it so that it's hard for them to pick up organic shapes in some of the like night vision goggles and stuff like that too. So
I gotcha.
I don't think camo is ever going to be completely out. The whole point is that if you can stand still and blend with the environment, right? I mean, camouflage is how the hunter-prey dynamic in animals has worked for years and years and years. So
yep, it is very, very true. It is fascinating though that people don't do the digitized camo as much as it kind of makes you wonder if there's some kind of regulation on that.
Wouldn't surprise me. I always wondered about that. Even with regular camo, it was like, so it must be phased out or something, and that's why civilians can wear it. Just seems that way.
Yeah.
Right?
It does kind of just seem that way. Because I always thought the digital camo looked the coolest.
I kind of like it, but I always liked the more organic camo because I guess I grew up more with that in the 2000s and stuff like that.
It's kind of funny. I always thought that looked dumb. I was always like, just blobs. The digitized camo, I don't know. It was one of those. I think it was one of those things where, because you grow up with like 8-bit games and whatnot, where they use multiple colors to make shading and things like that.
Yeah.
There was just this tendency for me to like that for some reason.
What they really need to do is, if it does, if it is something civilians can get, we need to figure out how you can make a digitized like pattern of things in it. Like again, character silhouettes or like
that would be super easy once they get their hands on it.
Oh yeah. Or like you put pieces of it together and you create like a shape, but you have to like look at it from a distance to realize what shape it is and stuff like that.
That'd be fun.
I think that'd be really cool. Alrighty, so on this day, some events that happened April 14th, not today, 2025, but April 14th throughout history.
I'm sure next year we'll be like, oh, that happened on this day.
They're like, we were doing a podcast that day.
Well.
It'd be really funny. So, in 1828, Noah Webster published the first American dictionary, which included 1,200 newly published words, including the word skunk. That was not in the English dictionary.
So what was going on with the word skunk before that? They were using it. Mm-hmm. It's just it wasn't classified as a word, really.
It's classified as it was a common word for the animal, but because it wasn't an animal you really found in Europe, they didn't have a name for it. Right?
I got you. So he made the first American one.
Yes.
That's cool. So okay, one quick question about skunk. There's a part of me that wonders, were they using the word skunk like, oh, I got skunked?
I was wondering about that, but I do not know.
Before it even got classified as a word? or like in the first dictionary, do we see where it means the animal and the adverb, or what is that? If you get skunked, I guess the verb, wouldn't that be a verb? You got skunked.
Get skunked would be I believe. Now you're gonna show how bad I am at grammar.
I feel like it would either be a verb or an adverb.
I think it's an adverb because it's like something's happening to you, right?
Yeah, but it's also describing more so. It's not necessarily the action, it's the description of something.
I know. So I love the idea that skunked is in the first American dictionary, but I do not know. I didn't write down how many languages he learned.
Didn't you say like 12?
28, I think.
28?
And it took him 26 years to compute. I don't think he learned how to speak them. I think he learned how to
write them down
in the words and stuff like that, and maybe how to pronounce some of them. But like grammatically, there was someone who was saying his German was awful as far as speaking it, right?
Yeah.
So that was Noah Webster, 1828, First American Dictionary. In 1836, U.S. Congress forms the territory of Wisconsin. So that's 1836. In 1848, it became...
So now, just to clarify...
a state.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to clarify, this is the formulation of the territory. It hasn't become a state yet.
Yes.
Because I was confused when we first heard it. I was like, oh, so it became a state and that... No, not yet. It was actually the 30th state, right?
It was the 30th state.
Also, apparently, I looked this up, that there are United States flags for the different times that they brought in different states, and there is a flag that has 30 stars.
I did remember that, and it was made the same year that Wisconsin became a state, and it was
May,
like later. No, it was later in the year, wasn't it?
Well, what month did it become a state?
May.
Okay, so then maybe it was maybe the production of it was issued then in May, and it wasn't made until later, but it was like in existence for 1 year, and then they had like another state or two come into play.
I would really like to know, like, when it becomes a state, right? Like, you get to 25 or you get to 30, if Congress was thinking, we're good. I think we can settle down with 25 states. We can settle down with 30 states.
It kind of depends on what was going on territory-wise.
That's true.
Because you had Wisconsin, and then during the Civil War, there were certain territories that they didn't want to ratify as states because they wanted to either have rules about slavery or have the abolition of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize. I have my Remarkable pencil in my iPad.
Oh. That would not work, but
I don't know how
I'm glad we got that rectified.
That's hilarious. I didn't realize that.
In 1841, Edgar Allan Poe published Murders in Rue Morgue in the Graham's magazine. It is considered the first modern detective mystery.
Oh, okay. First modern.
Yes.
What would that mean as modern? What is defined? Do you know?
Sherlock Holmes vibes. So the police are less than adequate for the task of solving a very clever crime or a very peculiar crime.
Okay.
I don't really think that reflects in real life, but in
this
case,
it usually doesn't.
But the whole idea was kind of to create a superhero detective, right?
Yeah.
The detective is a genius and being recorded by a friend of his or an acquaintance of his, like Watson.
Oh, okay.
And then the crime.
So wait, this came out before Sherlock then?
Way.
So
maybe not way, but quite
that's
a bit
cool.
Before.
That's cool. Poe was very interesting.
Poe was very interesting. I feel like he always did mysteries. He just didn't always do detective mysteries.
Well, yeah, because Telltale Heart was totally a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I think even The Pit and the Pendulum was totally a mystery. Because the whole thing was the guy was kind of trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Why was he there?
The one reason it doesn't feel like a mystery is that it doesn't feel like the resolve is that he finds out why he's in the predicament he's in.
He's just kind of rescued from it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes sense. But
maybe that is the
Poe
point.
did do a gob of mysteries.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though because there's some that feel like there is a resolve, right? In a way, I feel like Fall of the House of Usher sort of has a resolve, but it somehow it ends in a way that you're like, I don't feel like I understand what happened, right? And maybe
Falling the House of Usher is kind of sad to me because the dude didn't really intend to. Well, never mind. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who wants to read it. But we do also know of somebody who's read this on LibriVox, right? Read the mystery.
Yes, and I think they're pretty decent at reading.
So if you're interested at all listening to it after we're done, we will try and get a link to the LibriVox in the description segment.
Okay. So for anyone interested in the Rue Morgue, or the murders in Rue Morgue, Edgar Allan Poe, 1841.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because Edgar Allan Poe is fun.
Mm-hmm. What?
Go ahead.
Okay. In 1860, the Pony Express completes its first run, arriving in San Francisco from St. Joseph, Missouri.
Oh, so it was its first
first full run. Yep.
Okay, I thought it was its first run to the, I was going to say the nether regions, but basically the West Coast, right?
I don't want them going to the nether regions. Yeah, but it went from Missouri to California.
Dang. And there's still a post in Missouri that you can visit as like a museum thing.
Yes.
Don't know where that is.
It looks like they keep it up in pretty good shape, too. The Pony Express really didn't last very long. It went from 1860 to 1861. The big deal was that in 10 days, something could get from Missouri to San Francisco with the Pony Express route. And
so how many years did it actually last?
Just about 2. It sounded like it went bankrupt after 2.
Really?
Yes.
Dang. That sucks.
I know.
The Pony Express was such a cool sounding idea.
I know. I mean, it is because you can tell people still want to use it in Westerns and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least in Western lore.
So what replaced it then?
The telegram.
That makes sense. I was wondering if trains did, but yeah, the telegram.
Well, because in 1861, the telegram system was going around. Morse had developed a more efficient way to send a message with the single...
beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. Apparently in England they had a dual switch. And,
oh, really?
When things started to get more international for communication, the fellas between Europe and America had to learn both systems in order to effectively communicate news.
Oosh.
So it's kind of interesting, right? Also before that, I found out that the telegram really was an extension of an idea where in a way, it's like the lighting of the beacons in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So people would create these towers in a town that was kind of pivotal for communication. And then they would have these kind of flagging systems that they would use to send a visual signal to someone else, and then they could send it on. That
makes sense. So basically like the ship flags to say words.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm annoyed. I got the oval to look pretty good.
Uh-huh.
But that I don't think was centered.
Oh.
So I'm a little annoyed, but.
Shoot. Can we do that digitally?
We could probably do that digitally.
Because I feel like if we keep it, it's going to annoy too many people who see it, right?
I mean, the only other option is I could just get rid of it with the whiteout. But I don't really want to.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
We'll do it digitally. We can just grab the thing and move it in the digitals.
Alrighty.
For anybody who doesn't know, there's 2 different types of edits that we'll do. We'll either do the edits on paper, which would involve whiteout, especially with ink, or we'll do it digitally, where once we've scanned it, gotten rid of the blue and the leftovers, we'll basically use a lasso tool, and then we would kind of shift that into the center.
Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify.
Now, it was 1865, Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States. The Civil War had just wrapped up, but he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in Ford's Theater, Washington, D.C. on...
And that one got me. I didn't realize that was April 14th.
I didn't either.
I was like, oh man. I was like, for whatever reason, I guess, I don't know what day I thought that was. It's one of those funny things where you hear about something in history and you're just like, yeah, I don't know when that was. I just know it happened.
Yeah.
So having it where you're like, oh, we're going to do a podcast on this day. What interesting things happened that day? And you're like, oh, this huge pivotal moment in history happened. You're like, really? I don't know. It's just funny to me.
It is funny, but also kind of sad when you think about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm trying to remember if it was one of those and then the next day he died kind of things.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah.
But although he got shot through the head.
You can make it through a headshot. I'm not sure if you're going to be the same person on the other side, but some people have survived headshots.
That is true. But I don't know. That wasn't really a thing back then. I don't think.
I couldn't say. So many crazy things seem to happen in history.
That is true.
I mean, I think we tend to think medicine was like so primitive until, I don't know, like 20 years ago. So... Oh,
that is kind of true.
Then in 1894, so how many years after this? A little less than 30, about 29 years later, Edison demonstrates the kinetoscope.
So that is the original motion picture.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But also super not influential. I mean, yes,
it is the
ultimately.
beginning of something big, though, for us. I mean,
yeah, how much we use it.
Look at where we're at now. We're recording something.
Using multiple screens.
Using multiple screens.
Yeah.
Going to multiple screens, hopefully. Right?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
So, let's see. Oh, yeah, another tragedy. In 1912, the Titanic hits the iceberg.
Now, that one is one where it doesn't sink until the next day.
Yes. Because it was at 11:40 p.m., right before April 15th, that it sunk, right?
That one's always a mystery. That one's one of those ones where you're like, can we have the CIA drop what happened with that one? Even though there wasn't CIA at that point.
Are you convinced there's conspiracy behind it?
I don't know. Like, it seems like the captain was drunk or something. Based off of other information, but I don't truly know. I haven't done a deep dive research. I haven't done a doctoral thesis on the sinking of the Titanic.
I know, but I have heard people are sus. And someone was talking about that there was a certain important debate going on around the time, and scientists who were opposed to where the world was going were
on the Titanic.
A bunch of them were on the Titanic, yeah. I'd have to get into it more. But yeah, there is some conspiracy. Did it really sink? And was it really a iceberg? Was it somewhat... Yeah.
That is funny. I feel like it's always an us against them kind of a thing, though.
When conspiracies happen?
Yeah.
Which is funny because some of those, you're like, would we really have been on their side?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, 1914, the Firestone tires, no skid, are patented, which is kind of interesting when you think about... I don't quite know how close that is to the automobiles being invented, right?
Well, what year was it?
1914.
Well, decently. I think Ford came out with its first in 1910, right?
That's what I thought. And
that wasn't the invention of the automobile, but it was a pretty huge leap because you had the assembly line.
And then the last time we had this podcast, we were talking about Nick Firestone, who...
Yes.
Did he win a race? Is that right?
No, I think it was when he was born.
Okay.
I think.
So Nick Firestone was born. He is the great-grandson of the original Firestone, who...
Samuel?
He was the one...
Was it Samuel Firestone? Was he the guy who...
I believe so. He wasn't the one who put in the patent, though.
Oh, really?
No, but I believe he was an inspiration to the guy who patented the...
Interesting.
Yeah. And then in 1939, The Grapes of Wrath was published by John Steinbeck, which is...
That's a very popular, classic.
It's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and it takes... I think it's because it does something similar to what The Jungle did.
Okay.
And the Jungle, he's creating a story to report on the evils of like the machine shops and the oligarchs.
Yeah,
the food,
right? The food making where like the rats are falling into the food, or
and then there's the abuse of the workers and things like that.
Yeah.
Steinbeck is doing something similar with people who are moving from the Midwest, particularly Oklahoma. They're going into California to look for work, but there's so many of them moving in that they're being mistreated, and there's no real protection for them.
So he's really talking like about the time of like the gold rush?
Not the gold rush, 1939.
Oh.
Is when the book's published.
So like during the Great Depression, people are moving from... Oh, yeah. There was that like mass migration during the Great Depression. There wasn't there. Okay.
Because of the Dust Bowl and stuff.
That makes sense. I mean, you know, just with the time, too, I could see where there would be a lot of misuse of people. Because everybody is trying to make money. Everybody's trying to do something to, you know, keep money.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then you have, like, did you still have the Rockefellers and the... When did the Jamestown flood happen?
That would have been the 1800s.
Oh, so, that really? I didn't even realize that.
I believe that would have been before Edison invented the...
Gramophone?
Before he invented the kinescope.
Kinescope, okay.
But it would have been closer to that era, so...
See, isn't it fascinating? I'm sorry. My brain is just like jumping all over the place. But isn't it fascinating that we didn't stick with the name kinescope? Instead we call it television, which is a mixture of Greek and Latin, which is like a no-no.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, man, what the heck? Why didn't we just say the kinescope? Anyways.
Or K-scope or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Instead, people wanted TV.
Oh, wow. It's a whole thing, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, well. Also have the Allied troops landed in Norway, I believe. Really? This was in 1940. And then in 1958, so this is a Russian space expedition. They sent up the Sputnik 2 with a passenger, a dog called Laika. But the problem was it successfully got into space and made the flight in space, but when it came back, it burned up on re-entry and the dog died.
Oh, no.
So, sorry to end this with a dog dying, but...
I didn't realize the dog died. I thought it said, well, because it was coming back in. So, wait, how did it go out but not come back in? Like, what did they do to their systems, I wonder?
I don't know.
Because with like a lot of the spaceship ones, they don't use the same like heat reflectors twice, basically.
Yeah.
Because they usually jettison parts, or at least in the past for the Apollo, they've jettisoned parts. Now, I guess with like the Challenger, not the Challenger necessarily, but like
that was the 1980s.
The ones that looked like the Challengers, where they look more like airplanes.
Okay.
Those ones are on the outside of all of their combustions, right? Because they have the big orange tube in the middle. The plane is like adhered to that, basically.
Yeah.
And then they have the two side jets.
And you basically got to shed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but the plane goes in and out. And there's not like an inner, like a shell around the plane. Mm-hmm. It doesn't like break off like Apollo.
That's the current advancement in space technology, is figuring out how much can we reuse going in and out. Like, if you shed stuff getting out of the atmosphere, can stuff come back and land?
Well,
right?
Yeah, and not even... More so what they're doing is, I think it's the afterburner. Because what they'll do is they'll do the initial burst with like the afterburner, or I think. And then that'll get jettisoned off, and the propulsion of that will send the rest of it through the atmosphere, and then that part will come, the afterburner will come back and land.
Okay.
So basically they're taking the biggest engine, the thing that takes the most energy and time to make, and they're reusing that multiple times.
Which there was a time where reusing space parts was a really bad idea. But if it works out now, and if they can keep it safe for the...
Was it a bad idea, or did they just not know how to plan it yet?
I think... Well, sometimes they would reuse parts, and I think usually it was fine. But like Apollo 13, part of the problem was they reused parts.
Oh, really?
So they didn't know the lifespan of their parts yet.
Yeah. Well, they hadn't gone to the moon that many times. I think they'd only landed twice.
Yeah.
And then Apollo 13.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. There's a lot to that.
Yeah.
Now we've been to the moon several times.
I don't know if we've been several times. I think we've only been like 2 or 3 times at the most.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we'd been several different times.
Well, think about it. You've got folks that don't believe we landed at all, right?
Well, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it doesn't mean anything in comparison to the number of times we've said we've been there.
That's true.
Because you could say we've been to the moon 10 times and people would still believe that we haven't gone to the moon.
True.
There are some people who don't believe it unless they see it. And those are probably the types of people, the ones who say that we didn't go to the moon, types of people who wouldn't even want to go if they got the chance.
I wouldn't want to go.
I wouldn't either, but I'm just saying.
Well, it's funny, because in complete sincerity, I've wondered why people want to go to Mars. It's so far away.
Yeah.
You've got no oxygen. You've got no...
Were we talking about Mars last time? I think we were.
I think we were.
It constantly goes back to space for us.
We got a problem with space.
Although I think it was because we had another space thing
Probably.
last time. Sorry. But yes, you're right. I feel the same way. But I don't know. Just, I mean, but there's some people who want to deep dive into the deepest parts of the ocean. And I wouldn't care to do that either.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't either. I mean, I like seeing the footage they get.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the Atlantic trip.
There's people who want to swim constantly next to, like, dolphins and killer whales and things like that also. And I'm like, yeah, no. I'll see, like, the show at SeaWorld because that's fun, but...
And then there's those folks who don't like the orcas being entrapped and stuff like that. And you can get into all the wellness there, too.
Yeah, I feel like there's arguments for both sides, so...
But probably the true with the lunar landing as well, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. When you have other countries starting to say, "Oh yeah, we're seeing pieces of stuff that America left on the, on the moon," especially ones that it's like you wouldn't necessarily, see as like trying to kiss up to America. It's like, come on, we've landed on the moon.
I think though. I can understand the skepticism.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you have one of your astronauts loses the tomato that they made in space. Come on.
Yeah, you grew a tomato in space and you can't find it.
Yeah. Or like they deleted the footage of the moon landing just so that, like to save schools.
Memory, quote unquote. Yeah, no. Yeah, I get it. It's like
there are actions that they take, but at the same time I'm like, this is a government entity. Like I understand.
We can't keep a good thing.
I understand the astronauts have to be really, really good. They have to be military trained. But if you think about the administrations we've had for the last, several whatevers, I don't know. You fill in the blank.
Oh yeah.
Anyways.
And we're not going to change anyone's mind if you don't believe in the lunar landing.
Nope.
So.
And you know what? It doesn't really matter.
And it doesn't save you, right?
Nope.
It's not like it's like...
You're not going to have a better life.
I don't care if you believe in the lunar landing. I care that you believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a clip here from Epoch Times. I find they have just a lot of news that I feel isn't badly researched. They actually research it really well. And it feels like they try and report as fairly as possible on things. But the other thing they have is health tips and fun tips to help improve your life. So one of the articles that caught my eye was 8 ways to live generously. Now, it caught my eye because I feel like I could live more generously. So I'm not reading this trying to preach to someone except myself. So I'm hoping other people will
get something out of it.
Yeah, or maybe even you can disagree with it too.
Well, and the nice part too is at the very beginning of the article, they talk about generosity isn't just about money.
That's true.
That it's like one of the things that we can give is our time.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, Kelsey and I were having a conversation earlier today where we were talking about self-confidence. And the interesting thing about self-confidence is the less you think about yourself, the more confident you are in yourself.
I don't know how to hold this.
Doesn't really matter.
So, living generously doesn't just mean giving away your money or volunteering your time, although those are great examples. It's a posture you take toward life that involves opening yourself up to others, worrying less about yourself, and loosening your grip on what you rightfully claim is yours. Below are 8 ways to share with your community. So, my plan was I was going to read one of these.
Okay.
And then get your 2 cents on it.
Okay.
And folks can type in too if they want to put in their 2 cents.
Yeah.
Number 1, share your time. In wealthy countries such as the United States, one of the most precious gifts you can give is your time. That's because you can usually make more money, but the amount of time we have is fixed, although ultimately unknown to us. There are many ways to give your time: volunteer at a school or a local event, or be present with a neighbor in need.
I do think I resonate with that one just because time is...
It's pretty tight, right?
It feels tight. Like, one of the biggest things you get even at going to a place of work, right? When you sign on to work at a place, you basically promise to work, 8 hours, 10-hour shifts. But when they are like, well, we're done with work for the day, you can go home early, everybody wants to go home early. Or at least just about everybody. Unless it's the people who want the money from being there for the length of time, which... Don't blame them either. Not harping on somebody. But I'm just saying, like, more often than not, people will want to go home early from work.
Absolutely.
Whether it's just to go home and watch their favorite TV show or spend time with their family.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it can
or get homework done.
Yeah.
Right?
It can be a wide array of things and reasons. But more often than not, people want to leave work early.
Yeah.
So I do feel like the time that you give, so a lot of times, can be more valuable than the money that you give. Mm-hmm. Now, to some degree, as a Christian, I do think it is very important that we give money too. But it's not... I don't know how to put it. It's not like you should be giving 50% of your income.
That depends on what you're
It depends on what you're called to, but I'm not advocating that everybody who has is evangelical Christian, you should be giving 50% of your income to the church or whatever. No, I think tithing is good, but if you need to tithe with time, mm-hmm. I think can be even more important.
I think that's a lot of good points. But I think, too, there is something to realizing, what do I spend my time on? What do I spend my money on?
Yeah.
And is that truly what I want to be the most important thing? Well, It is the most important thing to me, apparently, if I'm willing to spend that money on it or willing to spend that time on it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Point 2, give compliments freely. Even the smallest kind word can brighten someone's day if it's given sincerely. Most people are too embarrassed or too wrapped up in themselves to offer a compliment to someone else. But this is one of the easiest ways to live generously. A simple and genuine compliment costs you so little, but can have a positive effect on the recipient. It might not feel natural at first, but like anything, you'll find it gets easier and easier with practice.
See, that one's always hard for me. Not necessarily giving compliments, but sometimes. I tend to not give compliments to girls, not because I don't think that they're pretty or anything like that, but because I don't want to look like I'm trying to flirt.
That's understandable.
So I'm more prone to say "Oh, dude, good job," or if I think a girl did a good catch because she accidentally dropped something and caught it before it made a huge mess, I'd be like, "Ooh, good catch," things like that, but. I don't know. I'm not going to just walk up to a girl and be like, "Oh, man, that shirt looks really good on you." Even if I do think it,
yeah,
or whatever, I'm not going to say it. I don't know. It is one of those things where I'm like, I feel like there's times where I don't give compliments when I should, and there are times where I'm like, no, I'm glad I didn't give a compliment there. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I tend to compliment guys sometimes, but in part I'm like using it as a way to see. Okay, so sincere compliments. I want to be more of a sincere compliment giver. So the point where if I see something someone's wearing or doing,
yeah,
that I'm just want to be spontaneous and say, "Good job," or "I love your hair," or "That color looks great on you," or things like that. Right?
Yeah.
Typically, unfortunately, when I compliment someone of the opposite sex, especially aroundish my age, I feel like I'm using it as a meter to see if there's an interest there.
Yeah.
But also, I feel to some degree, it's like there is something I like about you, so that's why I am complimenting you.
I don't know if that's entirely wrong. I mean, like, yeah, it's got, like, you know, an angle.
There is an angle.
There is an angle, but at the same time, like, I don't know. There's certain levels of, you got to test the waters, and so, I don't know.
I feel like compliments sometimes are tricky, too, because sometimes you can like something about someone because it amuses you.
Yeah.
But they may feel insulted by your amusement, and that can be tricky, too.
That is true.
So I think there's some discernment that needs to happen there, right?
Yeah.
And how do you help them to share in your amusement as opposed to being offended by your amusement?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, number 3, offer your skills and talents. You might think of yourself as just average at most things, but even if that's the case, it's practically guaranteed you have some valuable skill that you can teach someone else. Or if you're an able-bodied, healthy person, there are likely older or sicker people in your life who could use a hand with physical labor. If you're willing to look, opportunities exist everywhere for those willing to live generously. This is hard for me, particularly the talents part. Because, now not so much this last conference we went to, but I have felt like almost every single conference I go to, somebody is looking for someone with artistic abilities, and I don't feel like I have the time to give them. And then, to make matters kind of more difficult, there are times where I want to participate, but I want it to make money, right?
Yeah, I feel like that is one of the hardest challenges is, like, you want to do something, but you also want it to be profitable.
Yep.
And sometimes the type of profitable you want it to be isn't the right type of profitable for the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one that needs a lot more thinking about, and we're not really touching on the real depth of it.
Yeah.
So just know, more to think about there.
Say that one again, though.
Okay. Offering your skills and talents. You might think of yourself as just average at most things, but even if that's the case, it's practically guaranteed that you have some valuable skill that you can teach someone else.
See, it's funny to me because I am the type of person where I want to be good at everything, but not just like take the time to be good at it, but like be good at it right away.
That's true. So,
like, even at work, because I'm just starting a job at Walmart in the distribution center, and I have to like stack boxes onto a pallet, so it's like playing Tetris with boxes. I want to be good at it right away, and it's not one of those things where you can be, but that's kind of the nature of who I am.
Yeah.
I tend to want to just be good at it.
Yep. Number 4, forgive quickly and fully. Quickly letting go of grudges and slights is a powerful act of generosity. We may feel that we're only giving people back what they deserve when we hold a grudge or turn a cold shoulder, but that attitude only sustains broken relationships. If you've been blessed with people who love you for who you are, faults and all, then one way to pay the forward, or to pay that forward, is to refuse to hold on to negative feelings.
Even beyond being generous with the way, they're talking about stuff, it is good to forgive. And it's good for more than just being generous, just because, even the Lord talks about don't let the sun go down in your anger, which doesn't mean that if you have an argument in the morning, you can hold on to that all the way until, the sun's about to go down and then you forgive. It's be quick to forgive. And even, the whole, it's not 7 times, but 70 times 7.
I feel like there are some disagreements and difficulties with people that you have, that it's not an easy thing to resolve. So sometimes you do need that full day to come to the point of realizing where you were wrong and you need to repent in the situation.
Yeah.
Right? Or you do need to get to that point to forgive someone else, right? So
I tend to be the type of person where it's like, even if I don't feel like I want to forgive you, I need to say I forgive you so that I work my heart to the point where I will forgive.
Yeah. Because
I should forgive you right away. I want them to understand that I am going to forgive you.
Yeah.
You may not have all of my trust built back up, but I will forgive you. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. All right. Practice hospitality. Inviting someone into your home and treating that person to a warm meal and a good conversation is one of the most generous things that a person can do for another. The idea of cooking for someone and eating a meal together encourages a level of intimacy that few other practices in our modern world allow for. When you practice hospitality, you are naturally giving someone all of your attention. Set aside cell phones, work, and distractions to be completely present with your guests.
I think the cell phone part is the hard one.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being at a church where they promote hospitality and people invite you over, and you're encouraged by God's word to invite other people over. There is this tendency to invite people over. So I think the generosity in that respect is it's not easy, but it's not lacking, I don't think.
No.
But I think the part that is hard is the no screens, no phones, or at least no phones. Because, if you have parents with kids or whatever and the kids want to play video games and the parents are okay with it, then I don't see why that's a problem. But, not having phones where you're, all just there on your phone.
I do think we're fortunate to be in circles where they don't tend to have cell phones around when you're in conversation, right? Yeah. I feel like I'm more prone with our family to have my cell phone out and to mess around on it while stuff's going on.
I think some of it is because of familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always agree with the whole familiarity breeds contempt, but I do think familiarity can breed just placidness. Is that the term? Or you can be kind of complacent.
Yeah. I think there's something to the complacency. I don't know if it's placid. Although placid seems like... I have a dictionary. What am I talking about? Let's learn the word placid. Just for funsies.
And make that the title of the video.
Yeah, placid. Well, there's an article in here about panda. Placid. I'll get back to that article, I promise.
Oh, we could move on to one of the other articles, too.
But we're not done with this one yet.
I know, but we could save some of them.
Want to read 6?
Sure, I can read 6. Assume the very best. One act of generosity that many people often overlook is making generous assumptions about the actions and words of others. If, for example, a spouse or close friend says something that seems out of character, maybe a little less patient or more critical than usual, then you could choose, in all fairness, to be offended. But a more generous path is to assume that person is just having a bad day and try to lift him or her up. This generosity of spirit will strengthen your relationship and establish a pattern of love and grace.
I just realized I may not know how to spell placid. Is it Placid?
I thought so.
I did too. Wait, here it is. Placid. 1. Having an undisturbed surface or aspect, outwardly calm or composed, rosemary weighted, placid, but inwardly on fire. Self-satisfied, complacent. Placidity, placidness. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think placid was the right word then.
I gotcha. Where you're just kind of like, eh.
So to assume the very best, to when someone's so do you think that also includes just being quiet and taking it, or do you think that can include, hey, what's going on?
I think more so it's that, because I don't think quietly taking it is even good for them, because they need to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
That you're not acting in character. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's a matter of quietly taking it, but I also don't think it's like, what the heck are you doing? And like yelling at them, because I don't think that would help the situation first, and I don't think it would be good for them second. So yeah, I would probably say don't quietly take it, but also don't just get mad and yell.
Don't respond.
Get mad. Have life take the lemons back.
7. Donate to worthy causes. Financial giving is a classic example of generosity. In a culture that values money and offers many ways to spend those resources to make life easier and more exciting, we're often not quick to give away our hard-earned dough. I would encourage you to give to causes you are connected with personally or that are near and dear to your heart. I think a generation or two ago, there was an assumption that most people were giving to causes. But I'm wondering if that's true, if you have more of these places like going to Walmart or TJ Maxx or different places and saying, hey, if you can like give us a little bit of change from your transactions for our charity, that would help us out, right? Something seems to be missing there where it's like, oh, you can round it out and like make a little more money, right? Or give us a little bit of like, 10 cents or whatever off of a sale, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did it cut us off?
It might have. It's still streaming. It didn't say end stream.
Okay. Interesting. But I don't know. I feel like one of the things that is interesting is I feel like people are more so donating to things like on Indiegogo and Patreon.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Smaller independent causes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, and I can already tell on this one, this is a hard one for me. Being an attentive listener. We've already touched on giving your time, which is certainly connected to being a good listener. But the act of listening well involves giving the most precious resource of all, your attention. We can show up somewhere and still be distracted or occupied with other thoughts. And in some situations, this may be acceptable. Truly listening to someone requires you to focus and really care about what someone is saying. It's a form of intellectual work that doesn't come easy for all of us, but that costliness is what makes it such a gift to give. Because we don't know how much time we have on this earth, let's not wait to give of ourselves to others in our community. Set an example for generations to come.
Yeah, every once in a while I think about that song. I don't know if we own it or if you just used to listen to it, but where it's everybody talks, nobody listens. And it's like...
I don't think I own that one. I like that song though.
But I do think that's... honestly, I have to wonder if that's been a problem for generations. I don't think it's just our current era. I think maybe our current era is magnifying it because of all of the screens and info that we can get. But I don't know, it's just funny because, having it where we have a friend at church who jokes about the whole, we don't judge, we just listen. And I had the one day where I joked with him back and I said, we just judge, we don't listen. And then he said, but we do judge. And I said, exactly. And there was another person from our church that was listening in, and she was like, Oh wow, I think you got it. But it was only because he didn't really hear what I'd said, right?
Yeah.
But that was the point. It was just like we judge, but we don't listen, right? So, and not like I was trying to like point a finger at anybody, and not that I even still am. But it's just one of those funny things where, like, I think even when we try to listen, we don't always hear.
No.
It's just funny. Anyways. All right. Should we wrap up then?
Yeah, we probably should.
I finished this page.
Hooray!
Yes.
It's up to me now. I got a couple pages I gotta do this week.
Cool. Alrighty. Well,
have a good day, you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yes. Bye-bye. You'll have to use the mouse.
Oh, that's right. We're still on stream. Bye, guys.
The whimsical sword.
We had, wait, one total chat.